Good morning, afternoon, evening, whoever you are, wherever you might be. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Doug Collins, formerly the Denver UXer, but I'm not in Denver anymore. I am in sunny Southern California and excited to be here, excited to be chatting with you. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, thank you for following me there. If you're not watching this on LinkedIn, get go down to LinkedIn, follow me there. Where I do most of my live streaming these days because why not? Seems to have a bigger audience for me right now than Twitter or YouTube or anything else. So, LinkedIn is where it's at if you want to stay up with me, what I'm up to, all of my hilarious memes, jokes, whatever it might be. That's great. If you are watching this, please leave me a comment. Give me something to respond to here on stream. Ask me a question. Leave me a comment. Whatever you'd like to do, I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. Taking some time today to chat with everyone about your questions, anything you might have for me. I thought we might also spend some time today going through and just looking a bit at my design system that I helped create for Everdriven as well. I have a recreation of that design system here, which I can share under fair use guidelines. So it's not a full recreation. It's not 100% true to what we created, but gives you the basic idea and shows you how we might go about creating and rolling through a design system. So if you'd like to see that, let me know. But yeah, really hope that we've got some good questions to answer today and that we've got some good folks watching in. Also, yesterday was great. I found a job that I was really excited to apply for, a job as a digital product designer for Lego. Oh, dream come true. And the job posting for this was really focused on usability, accessibility, ethical design, um, uh, and just sort of right up, and inclusive design as well, right in my wheelhouse. So I thought, oh man, working for one of my dream companies in a dream job would be great. So, and especially after being unemployed for as long as I have been, um, very good to have a job that I was really excited about come through my feed. So great to get that out there. And I was also able to share um, a little hook that I hope will bring out some joy. Here, let's go ahead. We can share this out over here, can't we? Let's see if we can do that. I'm messing around with Restream for the first time in a long time, quite frankly. And let's see here. Trying to see if I can find the right tab for that. So patience as I follow along through here. Let's see. All right, looks like we're streaming. That's great. Let's go ahead, take a look. We'll come on out over into here. Oh, look at that. All right, I'm trying to see how it's going to do this. Let's do this nice little picture-in-picture thing that we got going on here. Look, I can maximize that back out. Oh, very cool. All right. Obviously, it's been a hot minute since I've been on Restream, so I'm still messing around with their UI a little bit here. So yeah, I did post this over yesterday on my LinkedIn. But it was kind of fun to bring this up here. Kind of fun to chat through this. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Lego. I'm a big fan of Star Wars. I'm a big fan of 3D printing, and was able to combine those three loves into 3D printing a Lego Duplo figure that my kids could play with because there is no Lego Duplo C3PO. So use that as my kind of hook when I was sending out my message to Jake Moore, who is the what exactly is his job title? We'll make sure I get it right. Head of design at Lego Group, and listed as the hiring contact for this. And he did actually ask people to get in touch with him once they had applied for the job. So if nothing else, I hope Jake gets a good kick out of C3DO is what I call him. The good. Yeah, you get that pun there. C3DO because he's 3D printed. Get it? Okay, maybe not. I can do better. I should do better. So yeah, definitely good to have that there. Good to have that out running around. So hopefully we'll hear back. Not really sure. I got a couple of other irons in the fire right now. I've been in process with Google for what seems like forever at this point. I don't know if I'm ever going to hear back from them. Fingers crossed that I will. Also, a couple of other job applications out there, one through a recruiter and one through a job posting. Those, continue on down the road. I'll update folks on those, but it'd be interesting to see where those come through. I'm not going to talk too much about them yet because it's still early enough stage where I don't want to jinx anything. I want to be just as careful about that as I can. Let's see here. Can I click on myself and maximize myself? Let's see here. There we go. That's how I maximize myself. Back to the main screen here. So excited to see that come through here. And yeah, definitely getting some likes. I'm curious to check and see how this is showing up on my profile right now. Looks like, yeah, we are going through Restream here, and I'm looking to see if there are any comments, seeing who's watching. Okay, great. All right, excellent. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun to go through the design system that we created at Everdriven, talk a little bit about how it was created, how it was put together, give some guidance there, and yeah, talk about our approach to it. So let's take a look here. Now, I will say, nothing that's in this file is anything that is covered for me. I didn't sign any NDAs or anything like that working for Everdriven. There's no trade secrets or anything in here like that. There's some information about branding, which is fairly obvious to anybody that looks at the branding and brand standards that we implemented on our sites and app. So I'm not really sure that is. There are some icon files, again, which are pretty publicly out there. And what we talk about in here is just talking about some of our guidelines and some of the pieces that we put together for this, which I kind of want to talk about here, why we went through those, why we did what we did, and how we approach putting this together. Again, this is a limited version of the design system that I put together, is something that I can put into my portfolio that will show certain pieces without showing the whole thing. And even then, I've made changes to some of the components as well to kind of stylize them, make them look a little bit better in line with what my original design vision for the application was prior to some product changes. So even again, all of what's in here isn't necessarily what it was actually implemented as well either, but definitely something I wanted to show off and talk about here and talk about why I did what I did. So let's go back to, if you have any questions, thoughts about this as we go through, definitely leave something in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on that as we go through. I've never really trusted Restream's chat functionality, so I am keeping an eye on the chats, both on YouTube and on LinkedIn as we roll through. And so if you do have anything to say, definitely leave it there in chat. So first off, fair use disclaimer. Again, I talked about everything that's in here is being used under fair use. Nothing here is covered under an NDA. There's no trade secrets or anything like that through here. So yeah, use this information only for educational purposes only. Not that you could use this particular design system for much of anything else, but get you going the right direction. So I've split up my design system here into the basic way that we had it split out. Documentation. This is some basic documentation in terms of overall approach to the design system, that it's a living document. Some philosophical pieces, so we'll roll through some of those here as well too. We also have release notes in here. Again, this is an example of one of the release notes that we had. Put those through every time that we put out a release, and would add on to release notes here. So every time we had a release, we would have that documented and covered here under the release notes section. We also put in some information about writing. Writing was a big part of our overall approach to usability, accessibility, inclusivity. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we roll through. We have a writing style guide in here as well. We'll talk a bit about that. We talked about some design principles. So we have information in here about things like colors, some of our semantics and combinations, layout as well, iconography guidelines. We wanted to put in there and document. And then we went for an atomic design approach. So again, this is limited to a use case of creating a single screen, which does not match what was actually put out for Everdriven. So I'm fudging on things here a bit in order to get around some of the intellectual potential property pitfalls of things, while still giving an idea of sort of the approach that we took. But again, we started at the atomic level, the molecular level, and then went to the organism level, and then templates as well through there. So for anybody that's not familiar with atomic design, essentially what that is when you're designing a design system or a component library, you are essentially making the smallest pieces first. So when we look at what we have in here is our atoms. We have things like our badges and our icons. These are the very basic building blocks of our site that, along with our local styles here, our text styles as well, some of our rules about drop shadowings, that sort of thing, are the basic building blocks of everything else. And you start with these basic building blocks, combine these pieces together to make larger pieces, and then you combine those pieces together to make them even larger. So you start at the atom level. When you combine atoms together, you get molecules. So when we look at what a molecule might be, these are combinations of our different atomic pieces. And when we combine molecules together, we get organisms. So we're starting to combine even more of these pieces together here to get these organisms. And when you combine different organisms together and put them in a viewport, you can get templates for a particular piece. And we've actually built out an interactive template here that we can play around with as well. So hopefully we'll be helpful there to anybody that's watching through on this. Let's go ahead. I need to update. I just realized I need to update my description of myself in YouTube. Always helpful there. All right, let's see here. Continuing on. Okay. So let's look at some of the documentation pieces here. I want to roll through some of these pieces and just kind of give an overview here. So I gave a background to why we put this together, that this is a work in progress. Every design system, every component library should be a living document subject to change. Figma has a great version release system that allows you to release these pieces out at sort of staggered levels, so that you can work on your design system, publish that design system when it's ready to be used for different pieces without breaking everything. So I wanted to make sure that we have that listed in here as well. Design systems should also have visions and principles, right? So your vision is, why are we making this design system? With Everdriven in particular, there were a few driving forces behind making a design system. One was to give me and Kayla and Steph and all the other design folks working on our project sort of a source of truth for design decisions that we had made, give access to our stakeholders to see what was available to use, record decisions we had made with accessibility, inclusion, some writing pieces, and really make sure that all of our users and stakeholders, regardless of skill levels, were able to access all these different pieces. We also wanted to make it easy for our teams to design, develop, and deliver really great products, right? One of the best advantages of creating a design system is that you're creating reusable components that your designers can rely upon to give a consistent experience, and that your developers can rely upon to be consistently implementable through coding repository, so that they're not having to create or sort of finagle these different pieces as they're created, that they're consistently used, easy to implement, grab and go coding without having to spend all that extra time to parse through everything. Once it's done and coded and you've had that visual design check, our developers know that they could just grab that, put that in. So we were trying to speed up that process as well for our designers and developers, and improve our overall consistency with those pieces. Guiding principles was an important one for us as well. Accessible, inclusive, and ethical. So, Everdriven, for those of you that don't know, they're a student transportation provider. They're a bit like Uber or Lyft, but they focus on private vehicle transportation of students to and from school. They did a few other things on occasion, but that was really where their main focus was. And so we wanted to create a system that matched that focus, particularly because that focus ended up having a lot of students that had accessibility needs, a lot of students with intellectual accessibility needs, and a lot of students who were homeless as well. And because we were taking care of some of our community's most vulnerable populations, it was imperative that our design reflected that. So we wanted to make sure that we were accommodating users from all walks of life, regardless of their accessibility and inclusivity needs. It is also worth noting too that a lot of our actual drivers who are using our driver app, and a lot of our actual owners and operators who employed those drivers, spoke English as a second language as well too. So we wanted to make sure that we were reflecting a respect of other cultures and a respect of their own inclusivity needs as well. So this wasn't just about how we write. I have down here too that this was about reaching into the realm of how we write, design, research, and work, that we were covering those bases with everything that we did from a design perspective. Clean and clear. We wanted our design approach to be clean and clear, have a clear visual hierarchy, focus on important information, uncluttered, intuitive, usually flat. Not only is that nice and clean and clear, but from an accessibility and inclusivity perspective for folks that have intellectual disabilities, it's a great way to make sure that whatever we're creating is usable for them as well too, and easily adoptable. Some things that we entered in through here that were important to us: data-driven product design, that we are informing our decisions with data, quantitative, qualitative, or preferably both whenever we can, and that research those designing and vetting before delivering products and features pays huge dividends. That led to our team implementing what we called, or what is called, excuse me, dual track Agile. In dual track Agile, you split the Agile process into two different tracks. There is the discovery track and the delivery track. So the discovery track, depending upon how you implement it, is usually your UX research and occasionally your UX design pieces. And then your delivery track is the development engineering. And some people might look at that and go, oh, well, that's waterfall. You design something and then you build it. But this is different. When you include usability within that discovery piece, what's happening is that instead of designing something, then delivering it and plodding along, no matter what you realize is wrong or what needs to be changed, and delivering that piece that you've designed faultlessly without any iterations, in a dual track Agile method, all of that testing and iteration really should take place before the delivery of that product, before the actual development of that product. So you do all of your UX research, your UX design, your UX testing, so that you know that what you have created is something that is going to solve for users' wants, goals, needs, pain points, and is going to add business value before you actually give it to your development team. This is really important, and it's something I can't understate, because what that does, especially when you combine it with a design system, is it erases a large chunk of time that development is spending reworking failed products. And there are all sorts of engineering reasons, development reasons why products might fail. There was a 2005, 19 years ago, feels like forever, study done by Forrester that talked about all the different reasons why software products fail. But one of the things that they talked about, and one of their key focuses was, apart from just the things like bugs in the code, or there's a lack of QA that goes on. A lot of what was in there were pieces that could be mitigated by good UX design. And so when you're doing dual track agile and you're doing your research, testing, vetting, iterating before you hand it off to the development team, and you combine that with a high quality design system that allows developers to go and quickly grab these code snippets, throw them into an app or site, and get things off the ground and running quickly so you can do even more testing post deployment. What you end up with is you are quickly getting designs through that are tested, vetted, and are ready and able to be used, where your development team can quickly develop these, get them out the door. QA testing is quick, easy, and efficient. And you're building and improving that workflow. So you end up spending less amounts of work in progress, a quicker amount of time to completion, more products coming through your pipeline and throughput. And we began to see that being an actual result of our work as we got this up and running. So that data-driven product design and splitting those pieces out into a discovery pipeline and a delivery pipeline was a big part of our success when we were at EverDriven. System above features, right? We're working to design a system that is consistent across multiple platforms, and specifically, this should be design system above features. Consistency is key. So when I started there, I found out we were supporting 6 different products that work there, and a few of them were apps, a few of them were sites, some of them were internal tools that we were using. And initially, when I was hired, the team was me and a couple of contractors. Then it was just me for a little bit. Then we were able to hire Kayla and get Stefan and kind of grow out the team a little bit. But initially from there, it was, for a while, it was one person for 6 products, which is not an ideal ratio of designers to developers or products. Usually something less than 1 to 6 for products, probably where you want to be. But we wanted to make sure that whatever we were doing, we were creating consistency across our platforms and experiences, which was definitely not there. A big part of this design system and the work that I did at EverDriven was implementing a consistent style, a consistent look and feel that worked not only on our mobile apps and sites, but also on our desktop sites as well too. And we do have some guidelines in here as far as responsive design. And our components reflected those responsive designs as well too, although not necessarily in this particular overview of what the design system looked like. Serve one, serve all. Again, when we build products that serve users with accessibility needs, we serve everyone. We build products collaboratively with our internal business partners. We put the riders' experience, our students' experience at the forefront of the design process. And when we do that, we serve everyone that serves them. So those were key decisions, again, that we had made. Some system assets. Normally, when I create a design system or component library, I make sure to link to relevant assets. These could be things like fonts, could be things like logos, graphics, that sort of thing, app icons, banner images. Obviously, no links to that here because we don't want anyone trying to get into that from EverDriven's perspective. But if you are going about creating a design system or site, this is certainly the route that you would want to take to go with that. I'm going to take off this super annoying. I just realized I still have this on here. Let me take off this overlay here as well too. Well, that's the chat overlay. I don't want the chat overlay. Let's see here. Not captions. Yeah, let's hide that. There we go. Could hide that there. Let's see here. Responsive design guidelines. We listed our responsive breakpoints here as well too. So definitely good to have. Very helpful, hopefully, for anybody that was I was watching that. All right, just checking in here for a moment, see if there have been any talks, conversation. Don't see anything coming up in chat, which is fine. All right, let's see here. So continue on. Example of what release notes might look like. Again, if you have a design system, should have release notes. Writing. We had some specific guidelines for writing that were really important to us and that are worth documenting here. So written words matter. Our tone of voice. We always wanted to be cheerful, right? We are helpers. We're helping people get where they want to go. So we're friendly. We're conversational. Not only does it make products approachable when you're conversational, it eliminates a lot of that sort of mindset of writing for engineers or writing for designers, keeping at the forefront of your thought process that you're writing for people, and generally people that don't work for the product. So especially for things like error messages or system status messages, it was important for us to note that down so we get out of that thought process. We talked about accessibility and some of the pieces that I talked about earlier, and inclusivity. Microcopy. So apart from good full length copy, microcopy should be short, poignant, friendly, helpful. Translations, internalizations. So we did have a translation service. We supported 13 languages with our design system at Everdriven, which is a lot. It was always interesting to turn on the Polish language option for our design system and see how everything turned out there. Amharic, Dutch, Korean. We wanted to make sure that whenever we designed something, that design would work for all of our different users. And those 13 languages were our 13 most commonly used languages based off of the survey that we did to understand that about our users. So it was very interesting to turn that on and make sure that our designs fit with our approved languages, which didn't always work, right? And if you're not doing that, if you're working on a product that has international users or needs international support, definitely something that you should be doing. Get out there, take a look at it as well. General guidelines talk about error handling here. Again, human first. We talked about our format for error handling. Not every design system is going to include this, but we had a lot of folks that were new sort of to design or new sort of to design systems. And I wanted to make sure that we had some of this documented as well. And some of this are just reflections of conversations that I had with my team. And some of it is just good design practices that are always good for folks to know. We talked about buttons, some of our writing for buttons in here as well too. Buttons should only be used for actions, never for navigation. That's a good accessibility piece. That's always good to mark down. Talk about some other considerations. I don't know, why do I have microcopy in here twice? I have microcopy in there twice. I think I have inclusivity in there twice too. I don't think I need that. Oh, you know what? I probably just duplicated some things here. Yeah, I need to get rid of that. Not sure why that was in there. All right, we'll get that out of there. Style guidelines as well too. So style guides are important for writing. And I think a lot of people don't think about that when it comes to a UX writing perspective, that there is a need to have style guidelines. But if you don't, you can end up with words that mean different things in different systems or are used differently across your application system or tool. In the same way that you probably got used to APA or MLA or AP style when you were writing in school, we wanted to add in our own sort of support here for some of our style pieces. So we talked about canceled with one L versus two L's because for some reason that was all over the place in our system. How we did addresses, our date format, decisions we had made about showing destinations, how we talked about drivers, durations, drop off without a hyphen versus drop off with a hyphen, drop off location, right? Making sure that we documented all of these different decisions that we had made whenever we made a decision about writing, so that if we needed to reference that, or, you know, when somebody didn't work there, like they had in the future and wanted to make sure, you know, that we were checking our writing, that all that was documented. This is the most of the text from the actual style guide. that we put in there, and all good stuff to know. Design principles. So we have our colors from our design system. This came from our brand guide that was prepared for us, and we parsed this all out into here. We gave our colors name. Dark blue, I always call dark blue wannabe blue because it always looked freaking purple to me. Light blue, green, yellow, fuchsia, gray, white, charcoal, and smoke. So that when we were talking as designers about ourselves, we didn't have to parse out which, what these might be. We also associated some of these with states: default, info, success, warning, danger, disabled, light, dark, and background colors as well too. So it gave us some nicknames or some different ways to talk about those. Documented those hex codes in here as well too. Accessibility standards were really important for us. Not all of these color combinations work for accessibility pieces. For instance, this green here was troublesome. We had some other greens that were in our brand that just simply wouldn't work with the other color combinations. But you couldn't use, like, say, white text on a smoke background, or that even I think that smoke text on a dark gray background didn't necessarily work. I'd have to check on that. But yeah, some of these color combinations had to be very specific with. One interesting piece is that you couldn't use white or smoke text on this yellow background because it didn't pass WCAG accessibility guidelines, which meant that anything that we made with sort of that warning color always looked strange because we kind of had to switch background colors with it. So we kind of stayed away from that as much as we could, but it was good to have that in there as well. We also acknowledge that, look, colors have different meanings across cultural groups. When we did usability testing, we wanted to make sure that we were sensitive to that concept and talking about colors as well, and sort of what the internal dialogue might be around those colors. We talked about ethical design. Not using colors to convey meaning, or at least colors alone to convey meaning. We talked about we wanted to support dark mode, but this was something that always bothered me, because from a business perspective, our business decided that we were not able to support dark mode because it was just too much of a development effort. I don't know if they ever implemented dark mode after I left. I hope that they have. Because it's certainly one of those accessibility pieces that would be great to support, and I think is definitely needed. Hopefully they did. We also talked about colors within our system. We do have a colors collection under our, not local variables, and textiles, export. Where did I put those? Like I had them in, I had them in our custom color libraries as well here too. So good to see. There's our textiles as well, effects, export plugin, cool stuff. Semantics and combinations, right? We talked about our two most common brand colors, what these different states might mean. Color combination could be used, white text on these particular colors, and then we have to use charcoal text on yellow, again, because of accessibility needs. There are additional colors that were in the brand guideline that we couldn't use. Layout. So we wanted to put some units in here because we grabbed material design as sort of the base component for this, because we wanted something that was off the shelf that we could implement quickly and easily, but still customize to our wants and to fill our needs. We grabbed material design as sort of the basis for our design system and component library. Material design works off of a sort of a base 8-pixel system. So we also made sure that when we were creating our design variables and creating those out, that we have documented those as well too. We didn't have any specific grid when I came on. This was something that was also annoying to me as well. When I came on, we had, again, 6 products that we had supported. Some of those products have been created by professional designers, but not with great documentation to them. Some products have been created by developers. Some products have been created by PMs. So there was no consistent grid that was in use across those products, or even sometimes within those products, I should say, pretty much all the time. So I was a bit hamstrung on trying to set the basic need of grids, and it was very frustrating to me. Definitely something we're working on. We talked about path stroke, how to use that. We did talk about motion, and because we had a good focus on users with visual or cognitive impairment needs, we eliminated motion from our system almost entirely. We did also talk about typography as well in here too, some of our text styles. Again, those are all documented here under the local styles within the system. So good to see that. But we had our header styles, we had our paragraph buttons, that sort of thing. Additional text styles documented here as well too. Line spacing style would be 1.5, so always good. Iconography, again, I'm not going to dive too much into this, but we talked about our iconography guidelines. And again, from an accessibility and inclusivity piece, that was one of those ones where we wanted to make sure that we were talking about and keeping in mind that icons mean different things among different cultures. Because we had such a widespread variety of cultures that used our product, particularly amongst our drivers, we had to be very careful about the iconography that we used. And one of the things that we were careful about is that we were not using iconography with hand gestures, right? I think, in the United States, a thumbs up is a good thing, right? And I am notorious for giving thumbs up, probably to a fault. And whereas in other cultures, that thumbs up could be rude or offensive, right? So we avoid hand gesture icons for that reason, because there were a wide variety. When I was thinking about that and thinking about implementing that, I always thought how interesting it would be, if the middle finger was positive in some culture that I hadn't come across. And I came across an application where somebody, the application was flipping a middle finger off at me, and how confusing that would be as a first-time user, and difficult it would be to keep in mind. So any event, came across through that, was certainly interesting to think about from that perspective. So yeah, talked about that. We talked about some of the style pieces, stroke, fill, color, that sort of thing. Our different atoms, again, we grabbed, I just have a few examples here of some of the atoms that we grabbed, but this is our badge here. We talked about some of our icons as well. On our iconography guideline, one thing that I took out of here that was included in our full design system was reserved icons that had a specific meaning across our tool, but were not to be used for other purposes. I took that out, and I should probably note that in here. But definitely something that was important to us is to make sure that some of these icons had very specific meanings. This was our set of icons that we were actually using for material design. We tried to keep our choices when we needed a new icon to one of these icons, or to specifically add it in, rather than listing out the entirety of the material design icon stack, which is at least hundreds of icons, if not thousands by this point. There's an awful lot in there. But wanted to make sure that we showed some of those and had this good option here. So molecules, we had a few different molecules pieces that we threw in here for buttons. We have some basic buttons. We got our dividers in here as well. Mobile navigation, top of screen navigation, our bottom of screen navigation, trip card buttons, that sort of thing. All these different pieces that we might need. And then our organisms are a combination of those, right? Where we're starting to combine these different pieces together, in this case, to make these trip cards. And then lastly, coming across with these templates, where we could create, this template here. Well, I have that thing. That's not mobile app button. See, this is why I go through these things with y'all, is because I am the only one that created this file. Sometimes it is difficult for me to realize what I have and haven't done until I've talked about it with someone. Let's see here, iPhone Pro 15.4 Max, mobile nav. prototype frame. All right. So we had used this template here in order to create this interactive prototype. So this interactive prototype was essentially of our driver app, what our drivers might see when they were driving for us and the type of offers they might have. They would get a trip offer that we could save, we could cancel, we could start our navigation to, we can expand these particular trips. And we had designed it this way because our users had told us, hey, I want to be able to see at a glance sort of what my day is going to be like, see the trips I have accepted, know when I'm going to be driving, when I'm not going to be driving. And I kind of set that here as a main goal. I just realized some of these are not flipping. Still some work to do in the good old interactive stage here. So obviously I got some work to go back here to do on this piece, but being able to see these different pieces, cancel, which trips have been updated, get additional information on them if necessary. I hadn't gotten quite that far, but I made this kind of sort of interactive prototype as just sort of an example of how we could put these pieces all together here. And it really does work well to get them done. This particular interactive prototype uses a few local variables, showing dividers in through here. We have our colors all mapped out through here as well too. Some of our sizing and spacing in here. We have our base information as well. Basic typography pieces in here too. So a lot sort of marked down within those variable settings that made this all possible, but pretty easy to put this all together, especially if you're not looking for anything that's a really interactive prototype. Running through interactivity is always a little bit interesting with Figma, and even things now that are programmed correctly can still have issues with it, which drives me insane with Figma sometimes. But it is what it is. And then we have just kind of a little list down here of internal components, design system, that sort of thing. So yeah, a lot there that we could change, would change, do change. But certainly a lot to like and a lot to look through. So that was kind of your quick overview of the design system that we did and how we put that all together. Obviously, this approximation of it still has some issues I'm going to have to go back through and iron out, but at least gives you an idea of sort of what that all looks like. So hope everybody appreciated that. I haven't seen much come through in the way of chat, comments, that sort of thing. So maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Not really sure, but hope that you did. And if you did, great. Definitely leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. Certainly something that I always like to see. And if not, well, that's okay too. So whoever you are, wherever you might be, thanks so much for watching today. Really hope you're having a great day. Yeah.